Have you ever watched an action movie and gotten pumped when you realized there was about to be an epic fight scene, but then halfway through the fight you find yourself gawking at how wretched the actress's technique is? You want to cheer for the hero, but all you can think is,
Stop! For God's sake, stop.
so what the hell's going on? How come a man who's not a trained martial artist can manage to pull off the moves convincingly, but an untrained woman in a fight scene makes you want to judo throw your TV out the window? Let's take a look at Rosa Salazar training for Alita Battle Angel. In the end, she was throwing fantastic punches, but when she first started her training for the role, she had what I call kitten paws. Kitten paws are these awkwardly bent wrists that take you from looking like a badass fighter to one of those lucky cats pawing at the air all day. These bent wrists are like giant glowing beacons screaming, "Look here!" to the audience. That's because fighters don't bend their wrists like this when they punch. Straight wrists look good. Bent wrists look like kitten paws. So now that you know what the problem is, we need to know why it happens before we can fix it. This happens because the actor is thinking, I need to make my knuckles hit that target. So they point their knuckles at the target. It makes sense on a surface level, right? And yeah, your knuckles end up pointing at the target at some point, but not the whole way there and the whole way back. And that's the problem with these kitten paws. It happens when somebody is aiming the front of their fist at the target the whole way there and the whole way back, or even just half the way there and half of the way back. But actual martial artists know that they only need their knuckles pointing at the target at the moment of impact. And they know that with their wrists straight, their knuckles are going to be in the right spot at the end of their punches. So they just kind of have the trust that their knuckles will be in the right spot, and a lot of actors who aren't experienced throwing punches don't have that trust built in. So if that's why Rosa Salazar has her wrist bent on her punching arm, why is her wrist bent on her defending arm? Well, she was probably told, keep your other fist by your temple for defense. So she's thinking fist temple and aiming her fist at her temple, just like she aims her fist at the target with her other hand. As an actor, you might get lucky and have an editor try to hide your kitten paws for you by doing something like cropping the bottom of the image if it's an uppercut. Or maybe they'll pick a camera angle that makes it less obvious that you've got this super bent wrist beacon of doom. Now that you know what the problem is that makes you look like an amateur, bent wrists, and you know why it happens, because you're trying to point your knuckles at the target the whole way there and the whole way back, you can use this to deliberately look like you don't know what you're doing, because some roles require you to look like you don't know how to throw a punch. In this clip from Jackie Chan's Operation Condor, these three women are supposed to look clueless. So, bent wrist, and the third one is supposed to be the funniest because of the rule of threes, so her wrists are the most bent. Then, for an extra punchline, she turns her hand so that she can have the bent wrist and point her knuckles at the target. Now that each character has the front of their fists pointed at the target, they're ready to get the snot kicked out of them. They get back up and for the most part repeat their mistakes. You might notice something though. The character on the left has pretty straight wrists now. In fact, she had the least bent wrists the first time around. The character on the right still has a bent wrist, and the character in the middle still has the most extreme bend. This isn't an accident. They're using this to tell the audience which character's toughest and which finds fighting the most foreign and uncomfortable. And we see this later on at the end of the fight scene. It takes the girl on the right one hit to get knocked down. The girl in the middle with the most bend in her wrists? Not even one hit. She's one of those people who somehow hurt just at the wind-up of a hit. The third one, with the best wrists? Not one hit. Not two hits. 2 hits and then a fist to knock her down. They successfully conveyed the toughness of the characters and their hierarchy of toughness through the bent wrists earlier in the fight. So the more inept your character is supposed to be, the more you can bend your wrists as an actor. If you're wondering why most of my examples involve women, it's because the kitten paws issue is far more prevalent in women who have fight scenes. Not because it takes them longer to learn how to punch, but because women tend to have more flexibility in their legs and hips, so they're expected to learn punches and kicks, whereas men are typically only expected to learn punches for their fight scenes. This is why you can spot kitten paws in fight scenes where a man has to throw not just punches, but kicks, knees, and elbows, like Hugo Weaving here as Agent Smith. This wasn't a problem for him in the sequels, but in the first Matrix movie, Hugo Weaving was an untrained actor who had to learn a lot of fight choreography containing a deep arsenal of moves. And as a result, we get some shots with kitten paws, just like we do with women in the same situation. If a studio schedules 2 actors to have the same number of training hours, but one has twice as much to learn, naturally their techniques are going to be around half as good. So next time you notice kitten paw punches, keep an eye out for whether or not that actor also throws kicks in the fight. Odds are they had to learn a larger variety of techniques for the role than their co-stars did. My advice to actors is to focus less on fast punches and more on proper technique for them. The editor can speed up those punches in post, but they can't straighten those kitten paws. Keep your wrists straight and be accurate, and remind yourself that it's okay to go slow. Most stuff gets sped up in post anyways these days. Maybe the solution is more training time, but another solution might be less variety. I hate to say it, because I love variety in fight scenes, but I explain in this video here why it's not as important as you might think it is. But if you want to see one of the most advanced ways of utilizing variety to create depth in fight choreography, check out this video about how Jackie Chan actually creates skill trees like a video game in Operation Condor.